It is Wednesday, my dudes.
What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Tim Burton is back with Wednesday, the brand new Addams Family-ish series on Netflix. We're going to talk about it. Is it good? This series is a sleuthing, supernaturally infused mystery charting Wednesday Addams' years as a student at Nevermore Academy. Wednesday's attempts to master her emerging psychic ability, thwart a monstrous killing spree, and solve the supernatural mystery that embroiled her parents 25 years ago, all while navigating her new and very tangled relationships at Nevermore. And starting with the rating, this show is rated TV-14 for fear, language, and violence. It is a series that I could say older kids could watch, but it's much darker than maybe expected, and I don't know why I didn't expect that darkness, because Tim Burton is our director here, and he directs, I believe, the first 4 episodes, and then hands over the reins to another director to get the back half of the season going. Now, like the summary stated, there's a lot going on with this show, and that's where we're going to start in this review. We're going to start with the story and all of the different subplots happening. I would say the main mystery going on is the fact that there are some murders happening at this school that she very hesitantly went to, and she kind of appoints herself to help solve these cases. And she's also having these visions that are telling her that either something did happen, something's going to happen. Does that have to do with the killing spree that's going on now, or the murder that she's also, another storyline, trying to solve here that has to do with her family, that's tangling her up in this school, in this situation, right? It's a school that she doesn't want to go to, but there's clearly history there, and it seems like fate was sending her here all along, so that's fascinating. And of course, the teen angst, the numerous storylines when it comes to relationships that she forms, whether that be with her roommate, which was really nice. They're exact opposites, so that kept those scenes really entertaining. It wasn't just Wednesday who was providing some hilarious and snarky lines. Then you have a bit of a romance of sort, and while I liked giving her that side, I don't know if that storyline was as fully developed as maybe the showrunners wanted it to be, but that's not necessarily the fault of the characters. I thought there was some nice chemistry there, or lack thereof, with someone like Wednesday Addams. It's more so the fact that there are so many things that it's having to handle as a show. You know, a tangled web of lies. And then when we focus on Wednesday, it's developing these visions that she's having, also allowing her to grow as a character, because even though she's of a very distinct mindset as the show progresses, there is growth that I noticed there. And you want growth in a character like this, someone who starts out so separated from the rest of the world. She doesn't want to interact with people unless she's interacting in a way that's going to make her happy. And what makes her happy is pretty dark. She's the kind of girl that gets joy out of the dark things in life, whether she's infiltrating an underground society of students oh so easily, or pranking students, maybe at her first school that she was at. And we get this moment in the first episode, but it's not necessarily the kind of prank that a parent would be happy about, considering it's extremely violent. She has violent tendencies. She's a violent individual, but that's kind of the joy that we get from watching these Addams Family isms. We get a dark vibe throughout the entire show, but not every episode is the same. We go on different adventures, whether we are solving the mystery of a creature in the forest, or there's an episode where we go back to Pilgrim times and we're watching a flashback of sorts. There's so many different settings in this show, and that leads me to one of the brilliant things about what this series was. And I'm so happy to say this was a positive, because Tim Burton, it's been a while, buddy. It's nice to have you back in a world that was created, it seems like, specifically for Burton fans. It has this gothicness, this darkness that so many fans of Burton's classic films will appreciate, but it also has more interesting characters, more of a compelling story, even though it is jumbled, that is going to allow people to get invested into that story, which is something I haven't said about a Burton movie, and it feels like a little bit, so this is definitely his best outing. Even in the episodes that he isn't able to direct after episode 4, you still feel that vibe, even though it's not nearly as strong because Burton's not behind the camera. And even without Tim Burton's direction, I enjoyed the final batch of episodes, but it's not as quirky, as dark as maybe some moments that we got from the first 4, so you can feel the absence in the last batch of episodes, which was in itself a bit disappointing, but at least the tone remained consistent throughout the show. Something else that was consistent for the most part, but did go up and down just a bit, is the pacing. There were moments where I sat back and said, there's just so much within this story that's happening right now, and not even storyline, then we're cutting back, and then we're cutting to something else. It's more so just the amount of things we're having to keep up with, and whenever Wednesday is not on screen, I struggled with what this story had to offer. And when she's not on screen, I think this is a testament to her performance, which we'll talk about. It did feel like it was moving just a bit slower. And I don't actually know if that's the case, but I wasn't as invested in those storylines that didn't have her at the forefront. And even those that did have her, when we're dealing with like the school bullies and all of the teenage angst and the building of those relationships. And this is a series that puts that as its main focus for numerous episodes. It is focusing on that coming of age aspect, and we've seen that 1,000 times in these Netflix shows. I just wasn't vibing with the pacing as we were trying to get invested into those stories. And, you know, somebody that's a little bit older, I wasn't as invested in that, but maybe some of you all will be. Now, the show is revolving around a mystery, really numerous mystery, but it has this mystery noir vibe, and that is captured through the visuals that Tim Burton, I believe, knocks completely out of the park. I thought the visuals were spectacular. The set design and the world that Burton is able to create, man, I loved this world. I love living in this world because it's so much darker than what we're used to from a coming-of-age type story on Netflix. It still has those cliches and falls firmly into those conventional elements, but with this setting behind it and so many locations you're just looking at and in awe by, saying to yourself, that is a Tim Burton set. That is a set that you only get with the show that has this tone and captures this tone. I believe that darkness is conveyed through the story and the character of Wednesday, but it's also conveyed through the visuals. Now, every visual effect doesn't work. There were a couple of creatures that come in, and you know, you're getting this visual spectacle, and then all of a sudden, it's a CGI monster, and your brain kind of, oh, this is a Netflix show. Not even a Netflix movie, a Netflix show. And I can tell by that creature. So with some of the more, I guess, expensive monsters that are created through visual effects, they didn't look great, but for the most part, the setting and just the atmosphere that is created through the tone of the show, but also through those visuals, I thought it was captured expertly. And now we have the characters and really the cast. There are some side characters in here that are interesting, but whenever we were focused on the bullying from Bianca or Sheriff Donovan, played by Jamie McShane's storyline, wasn't as interesting. Hunter Duhan plays Tyler, and that relationship is good, but it occasionally takes away from what's more interesting about this story. Gwendolyn Christie's in there. She plays the principal. I liked those conversations. Joy Sunday plays Bianca, by the way, and not that I didn't like the bullying storyline, because you get some nice moments. One moment where we get a nice little fight scene. They're fencing each other, and whoever's going to draw first blood. Okay, you know Wednesday can do it. She's oh so capable of doing it. But the more we would go back to that, the more it did start to take away from other things. Catherine Zeta-Jones and Luis Guzman as Gomez and Morticia, they are good. There just wasn't that much of them. They're more so cameos alongside a story that's focused on other things. But you guys want me to talk about Jenna Ortega, who is outstanding in this role. She's perfect. I think Jenna Ortega is a great actor. She knocks every single role out of the park. This is one of the best roles I've seen her in. She's snarky. She's always one step ahead of the game. Some of the dialogue here is brilliant. At one point, somebody tells her to remain well-rounded, and she says, I prefer to be sharp-edged. Other lines like, I'd rather dye my hair pink than ask my mother for advice. It's just something as simple as that. Also, the decapitated hand running around thing is in this, and that relationship between those two surprisingly was spectacular. And that comes down to my biggest issue with this story is any time Wednesday wasn't the focus or the focal point in a show titled Wednesday, I wasn't as invested. And again, there is a lot going on. And when there are subplots without her entirely, like when she wasn't on screen, I'm always thinking to myself, can we go back to her? Right? I'm not vibing with what's going on because I miss her presence. And that was so unfortunate that there were so many storylines, which, if that's not obvious, it's my biggest issue with the show. There would occasionally be storylines without Wednesday in a show called Wednesday. How's that work? And again, I love the idea of having the school for outcasts, and you don't often see bullying like this, right? Bullying in a normal school compared to bullying in this school. It's a lot different, but Wednesday always fights back. Is she able to fully fight back against the teenage angst? I don't know. There is some teenage angst in here. And again, that's something else that I wasn't really excited to see. About as much as a show like Sabrina. I think Sabrina is a good comparison because as those seasons started to progress, you would get more of that. And that is in here in season 1 of Wednesday, but it's not what it's all about. And those other moments, for me, they were the highlight of the show. Before I give you my score, if you're here and you want to drop a like down below, I would appreciate that. And comment your thoughts. What is your favorite Jenna Ortega performance and your favorite version of the Addams family? Tim Burton has delivered on a gothic world that captures what the Addams family is all about. Ortega is outstanding when she is the focal point. The teenage angst and numerous storylines somewhat take away from the experience, but Wednesday overcomes its flaws by delivering on tone and atmosphere, and that's why I'm going a 70% with my score. It's not all fun and rainbows. Obviously, it's Wednesday Addams. It's not, the perfectly put together series just because, again, there's a lot going on, but I did have fun with it, and I loved Jenna Ortega's performance, and that's a good thing since the show is called Wednesday. Thanks for watching. Comment, "It is Wednesday, my dudes," down below just to throw people off if they didn't watch this point in the video.